Hello, I'm Tim Holden, the author of Spirals of Fate, and behind me is the market town of Wymondham, and this is a very short video just to whet your appetite for the story and help you visualise some of the places where this story starts. And one of the things I've loved about writing this book is that not only are the events described in it real, but if many of the characters, Robert Kett and so on, were with me here today, they would recognise a great deal of what we're about to see, because in the 500 years since the story was set, very little has actually changed.
So here we are looking at the marketplace in Wymondham, where people have been trading their wares for thousands of years. And in 1549, something happened here that caused the common people to take the law into their own hands. We'll never know what that was, but I've offered my theory as to what might have conceivably driven them to take the action they did. And then if we walk down here towards the other end of town, you'll see things from a slightly different perspective.
So behind me here is the Green Dragon pub, which features in the story in one of the very first chapters. And Robert comes here and he's drinking with his friends and they're gambling, playing dice, and you begin to get a sense of the political climate in the country and some of the frustrations and the challenges that England is facing at that moment in time. And it's Robert and his mates over a few beers putting the world to rights. I believe it in its day, the pub was originally called the White Swan, but I've chosen to stick with it and call it the Green Dragon. Okay, so here we are at Wymondham Abbey, but before I talk about the Abbey, I just want to show you over here in the grounds of the Abbey. Today we've actually got sheep grazing, which it really does kind of show in some respects how little stuff has changed, because as you read the story you'll realise that sheep are one of the main commodities, or their wool particularly is one of the main commodities of that Tudor era, and they have a hugely influential role in affecting the events that happen thereafter. One thing that has changed quite a lot though is the monastic grounds. If you look out here you can see all these lumps and bumps. This used to be the cloisters, the refectory and all the other outbuildings of the monastery, but they were all pulled down during the reign of Henry VIII and his dissolution of the monasteries. And it's what happened to the materials here, who owned those, because obviously all extremely valuable, and indeed the traditions that were affected are one of the main catalysts that happened just before the story, but you find out in the first chapters what happens. They're one of the main catalysts for, if you like, the sparks between some of the main characters that then go on to form the flames of history and the much bigger things that did happen. And if you look here over at the Abbey itself, it's a monstrously large church, and actually to this day that main nave is still used as the parish church for Wymondham. And you can see the size of it. It's been here since the Norman times, and Norfolk is a very flat landscape, and so this is even still today a really big landmark for miles and miles around, and obviously it forms the backdrop for the first chapter, where Robert goes and he meets the congregation and he gets given some news that is relevant to his actions later on. So here we are inside Wymondham Abbey, which as you can see is a spectacular church. And in the book it's a kind of a fateful day for Robert when he comes here. In reality, why he made the decisions he did and took the actions he did is lost to history, and that we'll never know. But the fun for me in writing the book was offering up a theory into why somebody who had so much to lose went on to be one of the main characters in English Tudor history, and has for a long time been quite a forgotten character, but actually in truth shouldn't be, because what he did was certainly remarkable. Whether you think it was a good thing or a bad thing is open to endless debate, but it's a fantastic story. I hope you enjoyed the book.